Awesome. I'm
Good
glad
morning.
to be here. By the way, today's subject, we actually have the resident expert in it, and it's Coach Gill. Um, I know his eyebrows just went up, but don't worry about that. He actually knows what he's doing here. So,
Well, thank you, Doc. I appreciate that, but I noticed that I only have coach in front of my name. You have a whole bunch of other stuff, including doctor. So we'll take a look at that. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to VA Claims Insiders Facebook Live for this Wednesday. We're glad to have you all here wherever you're coming from. Hopefully, you'll all get settled. Um, just as a reminder, we do this every Wednesday to try and bring you current information about the VA disability process. Today, we're going to talk about changes in the gastro uh, ratings that are coming up. We'll talk specifically about the GERD rating. So get comfortable. If you don't mind, jump into the comments and let us know where you're coming to us from, what branch you served, what years you served. We'd love to see our fellow veterans. I'm a Navy veteran myself, spent 9 years in active duty, enjoyed most of that time. And of course, like many of us, the longer ago it is, the more fond the memories become. Most of us remember it that way. John, would you agree with that?
oh yeah, definitely. And I know that that was a shot at me because of my age. So yeah, I appreciate
Nope, nope. I'm very respectful of my elders. Uh, I hope to live as long as you one day. Everyone's got to have a goal.
awesome.
More
Right off
Navy
the bat,
vets, great.
U.S. Navy. Awesome. Right off the bat. So that's
You
cool.
know, it's interesting when we do our various classes, whether it's this one or our daily coffee with the coaches Monday through Friday, or educational classes midday or evenings Monday through Friday. We oftentimes have more Army vets just by the nature of the fact that the Army is the largest branch. We never have enough Navy, but as I like to remind my shipmates, that it's more about quantity than quality, or excuse me, quality than quantity. So it doesn't take as many of us to raise the level. So
Yeah,
glad to have
that's
you on
nice.
board.
I appreciate that too. So that's awesome.
And then, of course, we have some of our intrepid former soldiers who actually jumped out of airplanes on purpose.
I tell you what, I'll go into that for just a little bit here. I served from 82 to 88. I was with the 1st 75th Ranger Battalion and Charlie Airborne. So, of course, he's talking about me jumping out of the airplane. Now, there's a misconception with that. Most people say we just fell out of the airplane or stepped out of the airplane. No, we actually jumped because if you don't hold the right position. So we jumped and yeah, I always made the joke was the first jump was the easiest. I actually just walked out the door because of all the training. The second one is like, hey, I already did this. Why am I doing this again? And I did that every jump after that. So, um, but it is a great experience, and I truly love it. Just like every veteran, when you look back at your years of being a soldier or being in the uniform, it brings back really fond memories. It really does, and I kind of look at it as it helped me grow up. It helped me do a lot of things. So after that, I actually went to school because I was trying to figure out what was bouncing around in my head, and just kept going to school till they kicked me out. And said, "Hey, look, you can't go any higher." So and then worked as a practicing psychologist in the state of Virginia for over 20 years, and then became a member of the elite program here. And I got assigned to coach. And if you're looking to do that, just like I did, make sure you look up Gil because Gil is really strong. He really understands a lot of different areas of this, and I'm not just saying that to try to be nice to Navy. I'm just saying that he really does. He's really good at it. So make sure you go ahead and look for that free call and make sure you say, I want Gil, is very important. So you can actually get on your way. And, we worked as coaches, and it's one of those things too where we're there for your journey, because a lot of us did our journey, and it's good to give back. I think a lot of coaches really kind of have get caught up in that, simply because it is cool. It's cool to actually help another veteran. And after you've been out for a while, the whole thing about you might make a joke about, different branches and stuff like that, but don't be the civilian that made the joke about any branch because nobody understands what we went through. So hopefully you come here and it's okay if we have a few jokes left and right, but make sure it's just veterans joking with each other. But I love working with Coach Gill here. He is really one of the standout coaches and really does a really great job explaining and helping people with their journey. So,
Thank you, John. I appreciate that and appreciate the kind words. We've got, what do we have now? 38, almost 40 coaches on board,
yeah,
approximately, something like that. All of whom are very, very well prepared, trained, educated, ready to help you. So, any of you that are not members of VA Claims Insider, and you're interested in becoming a member, uh, jump into one of our discovery calls, and you'll see the link on the screen every so often. They'll give you an opportunity to do that. You'll talk to one of our veteran ambassadors, and they can answer a lot of general questions for you about how the system works, what we do, how we coach and educate vets so that we can guide them into getting the VA disability ratings that they deserve. A lot of vets get very, very frustrated with the system, not because it's unfair and not because it's a conspiracy in any way, but because it's a difficult process. It's a
yes,
very difficult system. The VA is required to operate under very specific federal regulations. If you don't understand or know those regulations, and who would if you don't have to, it's hard to comply with those things. And it's hard to give the VA what they're required to have in order to say yes to your claim. What we try to do here is make you the best claimant you can be to help you and guide you and coach you into preparing and having you submit claims that are easy for the VA to say yes to and difficult for them to say no to. And again, it's all geared towards helping you get the benefits that you deserve. So that's what we're going to do now. Like I said, I was Navy myself. I spent most of my time at sea. Loved it. Been, many places in the world, mostly in the Pacific, but some over on the other side as well. Um, I was laughing watching TV with my wife when she didn't know me back in those days, and I often say, "I've been there, I've been there, I've been there." You know, and she's like, "When did you go there?" I said, "Well, I don't know. Did this, did that." So it was quite an adventure, as they used to say. So
awesome.
we can probably jump into our. Oh, one more thing about questions. We welcome you to put questions in the chat if you like. We will do our best to get to as many of those after our presentation, which we're going to start here in just a minute. So hang on. We'll go through those. If we don't get to every question during the course of this presentation, somebody will reach out to you to answer your question later on. So don't feel that we're blowing you off or we're ignoring what you're asking, or it's too hard. Might be, but we'll get back to you. Somebody will get back to you offline if we can't get to it during the presentation. But we're going to go through the presentation first, and then we'll go to some Q&A. Do our best to answer all of that, and we will proceed along the way. So
Awesome.
let's see. Do we
Hey,
leave
by the
anything
way,
out
Coach
before we jump
Gill,
in?
you
Sure.
actually have a client that's on here. They just said something really cool. Jeff Gill is
Uh,
my coach. He is excellent. Perfect.
well, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. There he is. Yeah, I've been working with Jeff for a bit. He's doing a great job. One of the great things, and Jeff's a good example of this, when you work with us, be coachable, be open to different ideas than what you've probably dealt with before. Because if you haven't had success, doing the same thing over and over again isn't going to change that. So when you work with one of us, if you work with the coach here, our goal is to try and identify the claims, the legitimate claims you have that you can win. Okay. Not beating your head against the wall trying to win the things that you know you deserve. That may be true. But if you don't have the evidence to support that claim, you're never going to win it. But if we can help you identify through a strategy that is going to work for you, that is going to be accessible to the VA, that has the evidence to support your claim, that's the process that you should follow. So you got to be coachable, be engaged, do the things we ask you to do, and more likely than not, you'll have success in doing that.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Gil. Yeah, you need a strategy. This is complex. Pretty much any claim can be complex. So you need a strategy. You need to have that education, and that's something that we're really big on. So that way, the coach, along with you, is learning about that particular condition and how the VA is going to look at it. And you need that medical evidence. We also call that the SIM method, the SEM method, but it's definitely what you really need to be successful. Matter of fact, when I look back at even when I came to VA Claims Insider and worked with my coach, even back then, that was the main thing. We had to have a strategy. We had to make sure that we were educated on that particular process or that particular condition. And then we had to have the medical evidence to follow up to make sure that it made it, like Coach Gill just said, real easy for the VA to say, yep, this makes sense.
Let me jump through our disclaimer here real quick. We've covered a lot of this intro stuff, and then we'll jump into our topic here. Just want to remind everybody that here at VA Claims Insider, we are not accredited agents, DSOs, attorneys, or any other entity recognized by the Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA. And we are not affiliated with the VA in any way. VA Claims Insider is an education-based coaching and consulting company for disabled veterans exploring eligibility for increased VA disability benefits and who wish to learn more about that process. VA Claims Insider also connects veterans with vetted independent medical professionals in our preferred provider network for medical examinations and independent medical opinions, IMOs, for a wide range of disability conditions. Now, John mentions that the keys to your success are strategy, education, and medical evidence. Remember that strategy, education, and medical evidence, and that's what we focus on. When you work with us, you get one-on-one coaching, starting with a strategy session based upon a review of where you are, where you've been, and where you want to go. And then we'll help you to prepare that claim, not help you prepare it, but we'll help coach you so that when you prepare your claim and you submit your claim, you're confident that you've done everything that you can do. And then, of course, the C&P exam, which is the most important day in the claim process, will educate you on that process. We'll educate you on what you need to know, what you need to be prepared for, so that when you go to that exam, if it is requested, and it usually is for most claims, you will know what you're doing there. And then, as we already mentioned, we have multiple live classes over the course of the week, all designed to help you, educate you, and prepare you for that. I mentioned the discovery call already. We'd love for you to get on board and talk to one of our veteran ambassadors about signing up to work with us if you feel it would be a good fit for you. If you have any general questions about our process, that's the best place to get that. No obligation to you. You can sign up at the information that's provided to you there, and we can see if we can work together. All right, I'm going to jump into our topic here today. We're talking about gastrointestinal disorders. Now, that covers organs that support the body's digestive system. And there's small and large intestines, stomach, esophagus, rectum, liver, pancreas, gallbladder, and several others. Considering that food enters the body through the mouth and throat, they are also considered part of the gastrointestinal system. Now, there are limited presumptive conditions, and what that means is that the VA recognizes that if you have this condition and it began in service or under certain circumstances later, they will presume it was service connected or is caused by your service. And you can talk to one of our coaches about that specifically to your particular conditions. But there's only a couple related to gastrointestinal disease, primarily two groups. According to the VA, the list of veterans who classify as atomic veterans are as follows and eligible for presumptive conditions. And I always giggle at that phrase, atomic veterans. I mean, it's nothing to laugh at, but, that's an older word that we use for a very specific time in our history. So anyone who participated in atmospheric nuclear testing or were occupied or were prisoners of war in Hiroshima or Nagasaki, or served before February 1st of 92 at diffusion plants in Paducah, Kentucky, Portsmouth, Ohio, or Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Those are all situations where you were more likely than not exposed to radiation, which may have created problems for you that fall under those presumptive conditions. Now, certain other websites, the Michigan Veterans websites, lists a second group of veterans listed which qualify for presumptive conditions for gastrointestinal diseases. Now, this group is known as Gulf War veterans, and they served in Southwest Asia theater of operations. And we typically call that the Middle East, but it's technically Southwest Asia, or have a condition rated at least 10% by December 1st of 2026. And again, those are issues that if they apply to you, you want to talk to somebody or learn as much as you can about that so you can take advantage of those. Now, some of the most common gastrointestinal diseases in veterans claiming compensation are ulcers, gastroesophageal reflux disease, also known as GERD. That's probably one of the most common things, and we'll talk some more about that. Colon cancer and other forms of cancers, hernias, and hemorrhoids. Now, irritable bowel syndrome is very common among gastrointestinal claims. However, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, are conditions associated with Gulf War syndrome, so that can be presumptive in that particular situation. Now, according to the International Foundation for Gastrointestinal Disorders, also known as the IFFGD, by the way, that just doesn't sound like a fun group to be a member of to me. I mean, everybody's got their own thing. But according to those folks who clearly are experts in this issue, let me just read you something they say. The onset of a functional gastrointestinal disorder, FGID, can be triggered by severe stress and infections of the digestive tract. Deployed military personnel face an elevated chance of experiencing these risk factors and developing FGIDs as a result of their service. The challenge of deployment in combat situations can be incredibly stressful. In addition, digestive tract infections are common in areas outside the U.S. where living conditions may be less than ideal. The service connection of these conditions has been studied extensively. They're most recently identified as functional GI disorders, along with the 3 other multi-symptom illnesses are present in veterans as related to their service during the Gulf War. Now, in everyday terms for folks like us, that means service in the military is stressful and can cause gastro issues. And some of you understand that completely. If you're suffering from other related issues, that may cause different gastro responses at different times in your life. If you pick up some bug, disease, disorder over there that may cause chronic irritable bowel syndrome or chronic GERD or acid reflux, you understand what that's like. And unfortunately, that's more common in the military than in the general population, just by nature of our service. So changes are coming, folks. That's why we're here today. Changes are coming to how the VA rates gastrointestinal diseases. There are 55 digestive conditions along with GERD VA disability rating changes. And the final rule changes are effective May 19th, 2024. And this has been announced already by the VA. Write that date down if you are considering a GERD claim. May 19th of this year, May 19th of 2024, the rules are changing. And in our opinion, they're not changing to your benefits. All right. So if you have a GERD claim you're considering getting submitted, keep an eye on that date. Make sure that you're doing everything you can to submit that claim beforehand, and we'll explain why here as we go. Historically, the VA has rated GERD analogous to hiatal hernia. Okay, and that's a certain diagnostic code 7346 with ratings of 10, 30, or 60, depending on the frequency, severity, and duration of your symptoms. And that's always the key to the rating level you get is frequency, severity, and duration of your symptoms. But under the new proposal, Diagnostic Code 7206 for GERD will now be rated under esophageal stricture, which is a whole different code, 7203, with ratings of 0, 10, 30, 50, or 80. Now, just because some of those numbers are higher doesn't mean that that's an easier or better rating to get, and we have some concerns about that. And keep in mind that a hiatal hernia is different than esophageal stricture, and the analogy to those changes the way it looks at things. And a lot of the symptoms that you might use to get a GERD rating now aren't going to be considered the same way under the new rules. And so the symptoms that you might have, such as regurgitation, frequent heartburn, pain in your chest, uh, dysphagia, difficulty swallowing, things of that nature, aren't necessarily going to apply later and get you the rating that you could get now. Many veterans with GERD experience symptoms. I mentioned some of these already. Burning sensation in your chest, typically we call that heartburn, usually after eating, oftentimes worse at night. Any of you that have this understand that. Sometimes you have to sleep in a propped up position, or sometimes you find yourself burping and regurgitating during the night, keeping you awake. That causes chest pain many times. Difficulty eating or swallowing, that's the dysphagia I talked about. Regurgitation of food particles or sour liquid. We all have that experience of burping up some of those stomach fluids. Not a good experience, but that happens a lot. Or a sensation that you have a lump, something stuck in your throat. Now, nighttime GERD or acid reflux or both, you might also have a chronic cough. And you know, if you hear someone that's kind of coughing all the time, that might be GERD, because that stomach acid, the gastroesophageal reflux disease, is kicking back up into your throat, irritating your throat. That's where the cough comes from. When it irritates your throat, it might affect your vocal cords. You can get laryngitis from that. You could develop asthma or make current asthma diagnosis you have worse than it is. And of course, it can disrupt your sleep and create insomnia. So, we talked about the effective date, May 19th. Now, I've said that several times. I'm going to say it again. If you're thinking about a GERD claim, write that date down, May 19th, 2024. That's this year. That's coming up in just a few weeks. What does that mean for you? Well, you've got a pretty short window coming up to get your claim in under the old system. If you're already rated for GERD, you're grandfathered in and your rating won't be changed to the new system. So that's a good thing for you, okay? And if you get your claim in before that change date, it will be evaluated under both systems, and you'll be given whichever rating is higher for you. And this is an important thing that a lot of vets don't understand. The VA typically will try and do what's best for the veteran when they determine a rating. If you have two competing diagnoses and you can't have both because they come from the same system, the VA will give you the higher one of those two things. Here, if you get it in and they have to look at it under or before that change date and to look at it under both sets of rules, whichever one's higher, well, that's the rating that you'll get. Okay. All right. John, I think I covered almost all that stuff. Did I leave anything out you want to throw back in at me?
Yeah, no, I wanted to jump in, but man, you were doing such a great job going through it. I was like, well, man, and not to mention you have one of those voices that are real easy to listen to. So I was like going, but guys, what I want to point out is this part of the education part of this. What Gil just did was break down the way it used to be and also broke down all the new changes that are coming. But there are methods to go ahead and strategize and go ahead and get the medical evidence and make sure that you're getting the education like Gil was just doing so you can get on your way, on your journey to actually be successful. And I think most of the questions that I see, you answered just because of the way you did that. Yes, the grandfather clause is there. I love that that's there. And yes, some of the ratings change, but it's one of those things too where that's what the VA does. So you're going to need an extra set of eyes on your stuff and an extra set of an extra head. Two heads better than one usually, from what I understand. But um, to go through what you have and to get you on the right track to make this easy or easier. It's still going to be tough, no matter what claim it is. It's going to be tough. But as Gil was talking, you notice he talked about insomnia and stuff like that. All of a sudden, you're adding in mental health along with that. So there's a number of different connections that can be made, but it needs to be done. The puzzle pieces need to be put together in the correct manner to make everything work, and that's all part of the strategy. So I love the way you did that. Matter of fact, I'm looking right now, and I see Rose H2O wrote, "I've got my GERD claim out currently. They're very slow." Yes, they're very slow, but the point of it is you jumped and you went ahead and got some advice and got going on it. So that's a really important part.
Yeah, let me jump in on that, John. I looked yesterday, and the VA keeps track of how long the average time for claims to be decided, and as yesterday reporting that through March, from submission to decision, the average time was nearly 160 days. It was 159 point something. So that's more than 5 months, but that's the average. Obviously, some are going to take more, some are going to take less. Occasionally, we'll see a claim that comes back very, very quickly. When that happens for one of my vets, I always wonder, it's like, wow, did we land on a brand new rater, had nothing else to do?
Right.
Like as soon as you got your claim, you said, yes, that's great. But then I have others that are taking much longer than that. So there is no deadline for the VA to make their decision. They make their decision when they have all the information and when they're prepared to do that. What you have to remember too, though, is that entire process is handled by human beings, and so it's a
Right.
function of not just the individual rater and how busy or diligent they are, but also their admin people that are gathering information and how busy and diligent they are. And if they're sending you out for a C&P exam, what's the availability of the particular examiner for your condition? And then when they can get that scheduled, and then that examiner has to prepare their report and get it back to the VA, to the raters, so they can take a look at it, so you can understand, when you think about it in those terms, why sometimes it can take longer than you like. We'd all like an answer today. I get that,
Right.
but sometimes that just happens, and there's no way around it. To its credit, and I'm not the biggest defender of the VA, but I think they get an unfair rap sometimes. They hired a whole bunch of new people over the past year and a half. They recognized that with the passage of the PACT Act, many, many, many more claims came in, and they needed more people to handle those claims. And so they brought in a whole bunch of new people. So they're working hard to reduce that delay. So be patient. And I like to joke with many of my vets that the one skill we all learned on active duty, which we still know how to practice today, hurry up and wait.
Right.
you know, Hurry up and wait. Sometimes that's the hardest part of the claims process.
Yeah, I love that. But and now I'm looking at another question. Hiram, does the word have to be on your problem list? More than likely, yes, because you're the one that's actually getting with your doctor and actually creating that problem list. So that yes, that would be a great idea. You could also use My Healthy Vet. Send a message to your primary care physician and say, "Hey, look, I'd like to talk to you about because I'm experiencing blank." That way, you can actually start the ball rolling that way. And as that does, that's all going into your blue button and it creates medical evidence as you're going along. And sooner or later, it's going to go to a specialist that will give you that diagnosis and get going. And then, of course, when you've got that, then you have to come back. This is all part of the education part. You're going to need a nexus. There's a number of ways of getting a nexus. We actually have a situation with a company outside of us that we actually go ahead and recommend that you might want to talk to them if you're talking to your coach and you guys find out that that's a great way. That's our preferred provider that we use. These people are experts in pretty much every condition there is, and that's all they do is work with veterans and write up letters that actually help you with your cause. So make sure that you're when you do that and you signed up and you're working with Gil, go ahead and ask that question to Gil. Gil will go ahead and get you signed up and get you on the way to make sure that this is working out for you in the proper way. So
Great advice, Doc. Great advice. When we're talking about your problem list, we're talking about your VA records, obviously. And some of you, if you're not getting treatment at the VA, that you're going to want to get those records from your private healthcare providers. You don't have to use the VA to get VA disability claims for your healthcare. You don't have to. You can get your healthcare wherever you like. That's your business. The only difference is you got to make sure you get the proper documentation to support your claims. But if you're looking at your records, whether they're your VA records or private records, also look for things like acid reflux or hiatal hernia. Your doc may identify it that way, which are all part of the process, the gastrointestinal issues, and what you might commonly call GERD. And if your doc has those in there, you might want to just say, is that GERD? Do I have GERD? And then say, yes, you have GERD. Thank you. But that's the lack of that word. If you have other diagnoses that support a similar claim, isn't going to prevent you from pursuing that claim. If you have a diagnosis, the evidence to support that and all the things we require. Now, Doc mentioned Telemedica, a company within our preferred provider network. Those are all medical professionals who work exclusively with veterans to help with their VA disability claims. They're a separate company from us, but as a member of our program, you have access to them and a substantially discounted rate for their services. And because they do this every day, they understand exactly how the VA process works. They understand what the VA needs to see for independent medical opinions, for a nexus letter, and how to prepare a qualified DBQ, all to support your legitimate disability claims. Because, as you'll hear from us frequently, medical evidence wins claims. Medical evidence wins claims. If you don't have the medical evidence, your claim is going to be denied. The VA's hands are tied on that.
Right. I'm actually looking at as you're talking. I'm watching the all the questions come in, and I see one that I really love seeing this type of situation. Kathy, talking about her husband's GERD. I love when a family member is actually helping out with this and getting involved, because this is the best way for us veterans to actually have our family know what we go through, how it's affecting us. And the best ones that actually do that is a situation like Kathy here, where she's like going, it says it's not service connected. Get with a coach. I beg you, get with a coach so you can actually come up with a strategy and go ahead and get that uh, particular condition service connected. But I love it when a family member gets involved, because is just, it really warms my heart. Especially, we also have coaches here that aren't veterans, but it warms my heart because they're in the fight with you. They are 100% wanting to help. And I think in our community, the veteran community, if we had more of that going on and more understanding, it would actually help out all the way, because some of this stuff people don't want to talk about. I'll be honest with you, with my GERD stuff, I really don't want to talk too much about it out, because I have that little thing in my head saying, "Oh, that's embarrassing." Well, fine, it's embarrassing, whatever, but you got to get it out. You got to let them know what you're going through, exactly how it affects you. Because if you don't get that out, there is no way a doctor and or any kind of situation can help you, or the VA to understand where you're coming from. And I love it when I see stuff like this. I thank you, Kathy, for doing that. Thumbs up. Make sure you keep helping out your husband, and making sure that you guys are getting on the right track. So I love it. I love
Great,
that.
great thoughts, John. And that couldn't be more true. If you have a supportive partner or spouse, that helps your process. And one of the things, if you're going through certain conditions, so, as veterans, one of our favorite treatments is denial. Never helps, but it's what we do. And if you talk to the people closest to you, your spouse, your partner, they oftentimes will be more honest with you than we are with ourselves. And that can be helpful. It can be helpful. And also in speaking to your own doctors and speaking to the VA. What you don't tell them, they don't know. All right?
Right.
What you don't tell them, they don't know. And don't ever be embarrassed about this stuff, because they're medical professionals you're dealing with, and they don't care. I mean, yeah, sometimes bathroom habits are hard to talk about, and having to run home from dinner is embarrassing, or having to go home to change your pants. It's like, well, if those are real concerns for you, it's important that you talk about those things, because those are indicative of the frequency, severity, and duration of your symptoms, which is what all disability conditions get rated on. Okay, if you minimize your symptoms, you're going to get a minimized rating. It's just that simple. Okay, so that's what you want to take a look at.
Yeah, I
All
love
right.
that. And also, Gil, we also have to look at it like this as veterans. We also need the treatment too. So being fully honest on what you're going through, that's going to help the doctors actually design a treatment plan for you. So outside of even, having it service connected and stuff like that, you want to have that so you can make sure that you're being treated the right way, and you've actually got a plan on how to offset whatever the condition is. So I think that once I learned that, that's when I went, okay, I've got to let them know everything.
Yeah.
So
We use a phrase around here called becoming uncomfortably vulnerable. And we use it in a variety of different settings, and it's absolutely applicable. Be uncomfortably vulnerable. Look, when we served, we were all 10 feet tall and bulletproof. That's just
right,
what you had to be to get the work done. I don't care when you served, where you served, what you did. That was just the necessity of the job. And for many of us, it's kind of our formative years, and we stayed that way, and it served us well. But as we get older, not so much. Now it's time to kind of let your guard down, be uncomfortably vulnerable, talk about your symptoms with your medical professionals, get the rating you deserve. And John made a great point. Get the treatment you deserve. Get
right.
the treatment you deserve. Take care of yourself. If it supports a disability claim, great. If it doesn't, great. Get the treatment that you need. That's the most important thing.
That's a really good point, Gil. And I love when veterans actually notice that and actually start doing that. And there's also another aspect to this. There are veterans that are out there suffering from these conditions as well, and some could be talking to you, some could be, kind of watching you. So to pay it back or pay it forward, I always say, hey, you've got to go through your trial, your tribulations, get that out, because you don't know how many veterans are actually watching you go through the process and decide, well, they made it, I'm going to do it too. That's how we build this community. That's what this community is built for, is generational situations, because we've got a lot of veterans, young veterans, that are coming into the system now that really need help. I don't know about you, Gil, but when I got out, I was told nothing about anything, about claims or about anything. It was one of those things like, hey, thanks for being a paratrooper. Yeah, your knees hurt. Awesome. Here's some Profen, and have a good day. That was basically all it was. But because of all those things that I took for pain also created problems with my stomach lining, which creates all these other conditions. So when you look back at it, yes, the whole idea of you serve, you deserve really comes to heart right then. So make sure that you're doing this. And like I said before, let's see if we can get Coach Gill's link up there. Get with Coach Gill. He really is a strong, strong coach and a strong proponent. He really likes helping veterans, and he really wants to. So go ahead and jump on there. Let them know, hey, I want Coach Gill, and this is what I want to do. And he'll get you on your right journey. So,
I appreciate that, John. Very, very kind. Um, you make me laugh remembering what we didn't know about the VA when I left. Similar to your experience, it was like, hey, here's your records. There's the gate. Thanks for your time. And on the
right,
way out, like, oh, by the way, if you ever want to buy a house, you might want to think about calling the VA. They might be able to help you, but
right.
that's it. That's it. That was all we knew back in those days. And fortunately, there's much more education out there, much more knowledge. But unfortunately, and this is important for all of you, there's a lot of bad information out there. Okay.
Yes.
You can talk to 10 different veterans and get 10 expert opinions about stuff they don't know anything about. It's a lot like being back in the barracks or being back in the birthing compartment. So be careful about that. We work hard to stay current with the actual correct VA information. That's why we do this free class once a week to bring you up to speed. When you talk to one of our coaches, we work on staying current and educated all the time. Whenever there's a change, we're right on top of it. And one of the great things about working with us is it's not just one coach. Your coach has their own team, and your coach is part of a bigger team. And then each of our teams all work together, so you have that wealth of knowledge, experience at your disposal and at your coach's disposal, all designed to help coach and educate you and make you the best claimant you can be. So there's a lot to it for you. There's one question I wanted to jump on real quick, John. It was Daniel Berthold or Berthold. I hope I'm saying that right. If you put an intent to file in before May 19th, will they use old criteria to rate? No, it's based upon submission of your claim. The date of
Right.
submission of your claim is what's going to make the difference. Intent to files an intent to file can be very confusing for a lot of vets. That's your placeholder. That tells the VA, I'm going to file some claim within the next year. And that becomes the effective date, if everything else lines up, that your claim will be paid from. Okay. But it doesn't open up your claim unless you specifically open up a claim. So in this particular case, to answer your particular question here, no, an intent to file is not going to open up your GERD claim under the old rules. You have to get that claim submitted before May 19th in order for it to be considered under those old rules. Any
Right,
thoughts
and
on
the
that,
VA
Doc?
also looks at, things like you need a diagnosis as well for that condition. So let's say you put your intent to file before May 19th, but you're not diagnosed till June or July, the VA is gonna go to that. And if that's it, then it's after the May 19th, so, I urge you to go ahead, and if you have the diagnosis and you're ready to go, and you're wanting to actually have another set of eyes helping you, go ahead and get a hold of Gil and get moving. It's a perfect way. And even if you want to use another coach here, that's perfect too. I noticed that there was a question earlier too, that they're in Puerto Rico. We have coaches from Puerto Rico. Um, Hiram put it on here. We actually have a coach actually on my team that is from Puerto Rico. He served as a paratrooper as well, and he does understand all that kind of stuff. See, that's the cool thing about our coaches. We have coaches from all over different fields before they came here. And what makes that so cool is, yeah, if there's a legal question, I can run it right off of Gil and say, hey, what do you think about this? Because that's what his field was. And there's a lot of different people that have a lot of different experiences that could help relate. And when you have that type of situation where you're relating to a coach and you're going to feel more comfortable. And as you feel more comfortable, you go through the education part of it. You're going to become a little bit more confident. And once you hit confident, you're ready to rock and roll, and you're ready to take on whatever it is that you need to take on. So. Hey, here's Mike Florence also said, I would like to have Gil as my coach. Well, get on board, man. I tell you what, here's the link one more time. There we go. There's the link right there. See,
Well,
I'm
thank
acting
you.
like I'm actually
Appreciate
doing
that.
it, but I'm not doing it, guys. We have people behind us that are actually doing all this stuff. So I didn't do that. But there's
Hey,
your link right there,
we've got an
folks.
amazing staff that does a lot of our tech stuff and behind the scenes, and obviously you could tell our hair and makeup team is awesome.
Yes. Yes.
It doesn't take much. Hey, let me throw another question up here that probably is applicable to a lot of people. Tori Gully asked, "I'm still in need of help. I'm at 80% and I need to file two more claims to be at 100%. How can I do that?" Well, the short answer is sign up with us and get a coach to help you.
Yeah.
But more specifically, whether or not you need two claims or one claim or three claims depends upon what those claims are and what the ratings come back as. It's difficult to say uh, for any particular situation without taking a look at what it is, what the best path is for you. When you work with us, the first time your coach talks to you for a strategy session, they review what you're rated for, and they'll see things that you're denied for, and maybe they can recognize, well, this was denied, but if you had this other piece of evidence, you have a better chance of getting it approved, or this is rated, but it's underrated, and if your symptoms have increased or worsened since you were rated, that might be the best path for you to go. So the real answer is the most hated answer in the world. It depends. It depends upon your particular circumstance. It depends upon what you're currently rated for. It depends upon what you've been denied for, and it depends upon what other conditions you have that you've never submitted, and maybe you should. Are they primary, meaning direct connection, things that actually began or arose in military service, or are there things caused by an already service-connected disability, which would be a secondary condition? And remember, no matter what you're claiming, you have to have a current diagnosis of that disability condition. If you don't have a current diagnosis, the VA can't say yes to your claim. Then you have to have it connected to your military service, either directly to because it began in service or caused by an already service connected disability. And then you have to have a nexus opinion. That's the VA's formal word, meaning a connection between those two things. And if you're missing any one of those three things, the VA can't say yes to your claim. And that's why many vets fail in this process, because they're missing either current diagnosis or they're missing a nexus connecting those two things. And your coach, a coach, can help you identify those issues, provide you the education that you need, and guide you towards obtaining the appropriate medical evidence to support your legitimate disability claims. And again, that's where our preferred provider network comes into play. If you're seeking a nexus, if that's what you're lacking for a particular service connected, or to get a particular disability service connected, oftentimes a nexus can be obtained through our providers when you have a legitimate claim that's supported by the evidence, and they can help you with that.
That's absolutely correct. Hey, and Tori, also remember, VA has funny math. Okay, we don't think it's funny, but technically it is funny. So it's one of those things too, where you're thinking, I need two more claims to get to 100. There might be an easier path. Okay, there might be something that you're not looking at that somebody that does this all the time could actually see and go like, well, we could go this direction and it could be an easier path for you. So it's sort of like one of those things where Gil was just talking about. A lot of people out there, especially throughout the internet, uh, say all kinds of wild stuff and try to help veterans. God bless them. Because it's one of those things that I think in their heart they're really trying to help. But when you're looking at that, and we're in that field of life where you're not supposed to judge and all that kind of stuff. I don't judge. I actually do a technique that I was taught a long time ago. I become a fruit inspector. And now I know that sounds funny, but being a fruit inspector means that you're looking at the tree that's giving you information. If that tree does not look like it's bearing a lot of good fruit, I would not be listening to it. So be a fruit inspector. Go ahead and look at the stuff and make sure that you're getting with um, people that actually have done this for a while and done this well and highly successful at it. So hopefully that came out right. Did that come out right, Gil? Fruit
Sounded
inspector?
great. Sounded great. I appreciate that. Let's jump on another question here. USMC Farrell's got a long one, but I'll go ahead and read through this because it has more applicability to a lot of folks here. Coach Mary, who's one of our coaches, I love Mary, is on vacation. So I'll ask you, gentlemen, I was awarded GERD 10% a few months ago, and just recently I've been diagnosed with sleep apnea. Could I submit sleep apnea secondary to GERD, or for that matter, tinnitus? I still say tinnitus, even though it's properly pronounced tinnitus. I'm just having a hard time making that change.
Right.
Same thing, though. This is a great question, because the heart of this is this a secondary claim, or can this be a secondary claim? And the short answer is no to tinnitus. There's no connection between tinnitus and your gastrointestinal issues. And GERD, can sleep apnea be secondary to GERD? I have not seen that connection. The key is always, will a medical professional connect the two based upon what you already have? I think that this is absolutely an important conversation to have with your coach. It depends upon, well, what else are you rated for? What conditions you have that may be causing your GERD? Do you have orthopedic issues for which you've been taking NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, for years and years and years, and now your stomach is just raging because of that? That could be secondary to those conditions as a result of the medication you're taking. Do you have severe PTSD? And as I read from the gastro geeks, as I like to call them, they talk about how stress can cause a lot of those things. So
Yes.
there's a lot of different paths that may be available, but it all depends upon your current situation, what you're already rated for, whether or not GERD is or can be connected as a secondary condition. Now, remember, just because you have a condition doesn't mean it's a service-connected condition. Keep that in mind. A lot of vets get confused, like, well, the VA diagnosed me with sleep apnea and they gave me a CPAP, so they have to rate me for that. No, they don't. If it wasn't diagnosed on active duty, and that requires a sleep study, and I don't know anyone but our Air Force folks that had time for a sleep study on active duty. And everybody gets that, but who had time for that on active duty? Seriously, nobody. So most of us that have sleep apnea get diagnosed afterwards. Well, that takes it outside of an active duty diagnosis, which means that if it's going to be service connected, it has to be secondary to something else being caused by another service connected disability. And because sleep apnea is a respiratory condition, more likely than not, that's going to be caused by respiratory issues, things like sinusitis or asthma or rhinitis, things of that nature. So, this is a conversation that's important to have with Mary when she gets back. Well-deserved time off. None of us get enough of that, and mostly because we choose not to. So when we do, it's like, yay, good for you.
That's awesome.
John, you leave anything out of that?
No, no. Mary's actually on my team, and yes, she's well deserved of her vacation. Um, but personally, I have seen that where GERD can affect that, but you have to have sort of like what Gil said. You have to have a doctor to agree and say yes. His GERD is affecting his soft palate. His soft palate is affecting the way he's breathing at night. Bada boom, bada bang type of thing. So it's one of those things where you have to have a doctor say, yes, I believe that. And then once you've got that paperwork, then you can actually get all the other stuff that you need, like a nexus and all that will help out. But again, just thinking that, hey, I can connect it to this, you got to make sure that you have medical evidence by a licensed professional that can actually agree with that. That will lead the way to stepping in the right direction. So,
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. And without that medical connection, that nexus, the VA can't say yes to your claim. And one of the great things about the folks in our preferred provider network and Telemedica in particular, the company we talked about earlier, is they're very well versed in these things. And frankly, if they don't see a connection, they'll tell you they don't see a connection rather than you barking up the wrong tree, and they're not around to try and help you lose claims. And we're not around trying to help you lose claims. We're trying to help you identify claims that you can win. And if there's no connection, there's no connection. Your coach will recommend that to you. The medical folks will recommend that to you. A lot of us think, well, I should get everything. No, it's not going to work that way. But it's worth pursuing and investigating to determine if that's a legitimate claim that you can prepare, you can submit, and you can win.
very good point, Gail. And there's been lots of situations to where somebody was thinking, "Hey, this is a good one for me to go for, because the service can be service connected." But yet, when you talk to a doctor, the doctor says, "No, actually, you might want to think about this. You'll want to listen because those." It's sort of like a lot of people that I've talked to. My backfield or field background was in psych. And everybody's like, well, I want PTSD. Nobody wants PTSD. Okay, let's clear that up right there. Nobody wants PTSD. But it doesn't matter what they called it. They could have called it peanut butter and jelly. They could have called it anything, jelly beans, whatever. All I care about is you look at it, you see my symptoms of the condition, you rate me, and you treat me. As long as those fall into line, you're going to be fine. It doesn't matter what they call it. Sort of like we have ages ago where you had some people go in for an IBS claim, but they come out with a GERD. It's just the way the VA looks at it, and call it whatever you want, but go ahead and make sure I'm service connected and I'm treated for it. So it's one of those things too where you really have to look at it like that. And sometimes you come in here thinking that, hey, I want to do this. Then all of a sudden there's an easier path. And if there's an easier path, why not take it? Because it'll get you to where you want to be in the long run. That's the important part. So just be open, be coachable. Sort of like what Gil said at the beginning, because things could appear different. So
Yeah, that's a great point. Ebony had a question here. Again, I think this is applicable to a lot of people. I have been diagnosed with GERD and have been going back and forth to the VA for years with issues from it. There we go. I had some of the same issues within the military, but didn't officially get the diagnosis until after leaving service. Could I still file a claim on this? Well, without getting into your specific circumstance, let me try and answer this generally for everybody's benefit. one of the problems many of us have is that we didn't go to sick call or we didn't go to sick bay. We didn't document our conditions on active duty. And so we're left trying to prove something that has no evidence. And sometimes you just can't get over that hurdle. And so that leaves you with, well, how else can I get this service connected? And that's why talking to one of our coaches may help you develop a strategy that can connect this as a secondary condition to something else that you're already service connected for. It doesn't matter that you've had it for that long. It can still be caused by the things we were talking about a few minutes ago, extensive use of NSAIDs over the years, PTSD, other gastro issues that you're dealing with. You have a hiatal hernia that's there. Secondary conditions that can be based upon something already service connected. So the short answer is, could you still file a claim for this? Absolutely, you could. Can you get it service connected? If the things that we just talked about apply to you, and if you have evidence to support that, then you could get it service connected. Okay, that's always the key. What is causing this? How is this service connected? Where is the nexus? And can I get a qualified medical professional to support that opinion? Medical evidence you need to win your claim.
Awesome. Ebony, I urge you to get with a coach and get it set up. From just my experience by seeing someone ask a question like that, I'm like going, okay, they're on the right path, but they need that extra set of eyes. They need that extra brain power to go ahead and make sure that they got their journey mapped out. So remember, strategy, education, and medical evidence. When you put those three together, it's lethal. It puts everything so tight that it's really hard for anybody to say no to. So Ebony, definitely get with a coach and get rocking and rolling on that. I urge you, please.
Great advice. Let's see. Timothy Cohn, I hope I said that right. Let's see, this is an HLR question, and some people might need this. I submitted an HLR, that's a higher level review request. It's a form of appeal from a claim that was denied. On January 18th of 23, during the HLR, the reviewer agreed on 4/13 of 23, found a duty to assist error on an unmistakable erroneous and overturned. Why am I still waiting for a rating over a year later? What all this means, if you haven't been through this process, is that he appealed the decision to a senior reviewer, a senior rater. That senior rater looked at the decision and said, yeah, this was wrong. We have to change this. Now, usually what happens is they send it back to the original rater for further development. That may mean a new C&P exam. That may mean a new review of the evidence. That may mean a variety of different things to gather evidence to review your claim because it wasn't done properly the first time. And as we explained earlier, there is no deadline for the VA to finish a claim. And so if this particular rater that's handling it on review, they have to go through all those steps to make sure you get the answer. It's frustrating. I understand that. It's disappointing. But the good news is that the senior rater agreed with you that it was a mistake. And so they have to do it over. So you get a free do-over, So this is where hurry up and wait comes into play. Nothing you can do about moving that process along. All you can do is check on your claim on va.gov, maybe call the 800 number and say, hey, what's the status of my claim? Waiting is hard, man. I get you.
Yes.
Waiting is hard, but all of that is why you are where you are. But I look at that as good news.
Yes, hang in there, brother. Just hang in there. Because trust me, if it comes back and it's great news, you're not going to remember the wait.
Yep.
That's the way I look at it. I don't remember the wait time, and I had some wait times when I was going through the process. But once I hit 100% PNT, I don't remember too much except for that day. By the way, it's February 3rd. It was 4 years ago, so I know that. It's funny when you remember something like that because it's like remembering your birthday. So I love it. That was a day that freed up a lot of different things. So.
Hey, I lost track of time, and we need to wrap this up. This has been very enjoyable, John. I appreciate working with you, Doc. It's always a pleasure. Let me recap a couple of things before we get out of here. the biggest thing for you to take away is that the rules on GERD ratings are changing. They're changing May 19th of this year. If you have a GERD claim that you're thinking about getting submitted, keep that in mind. Make sure you have all your evidence and get that submitted. If you want to work with us, we'd love to have you talk to us about that. You know, we focus on strategy, education, and medical evidence. Our goal is to coach you and prepare you and educate you to win your claims and get the VA disability benefits that you deserve. We do that through one-on-one coaching, strategize with your coach, make you the best claimant you can be so that when you submit your claim, it's a good, solid claim. And then we help educate you for the C&P process, which we believe is the most important day in the claim process. Part of that education is the classes we have 3 times a day, our morning class, midday, evening class, coffee with the coaches Monday through Friday most weeks, a little more casual environment, more give and take there. We have our mental health C&P education classes on Mondays and Thursdays. We have our other medical education classes on the other days. And our founder, Brian Reese, has a great book out called You Deserve It, the second edition. You can order that on Amazon today, or you can download a free digital copy. Great resource for you to learn about this disability benefits. And lastly, if you want to learn more about us and what we do, sign up for one of our free discovery calls. Talk to one of our team members. You can go to vaclaims.help to sign up for that. If you need help, reach out, see if we're a good fit for you, see if you'd like to partner with you. We would love to help you. Our goal is to help every veteran we can. Being here is a great first step for all of you. Hopefully you've got something worthwhile out of this. And just as a reminder, if we didn't get to all your questions, somebody will reach out and respond to your question for you. John and I could probably talk for another hour or two and still not scratch everything
easily.
That
Because it went too quick. I urge you, make that free call. Tell them you want Gil. I can't wait to see all that stuff come in, and I want to hear Gil go like, John, you kind of overwhelmed me.
Bring them on, brother.
Gil,
bring them on. Take them all.
Yeah.
Love to help you.
Ask for Gil.
All right. Love to help you. Hey, thanks for being here. Hopefully we'll see you around. We do this once a week, but we've got our other programs that we talked about. Have yourself a great day. Doc, thank you very much for working with me. It's always a pleasure, sir.
Thank you, Gil. Appreciate it.